can we acknowledge that it still happens, though, that it does happen? Do you really think that's not happening right now despite this report?
I think
do you really believe that because Barack Obama or our government says or Dianne Feinstein says, oh, we don't do this anymore?
Well, let me tell you what I'll tell you. I am so much in the middle of this one. Let me tell you, I like the values of Joan, but I'll tell you one thing. If anybody thinks us not torturing people is going to stop al-Qaeda from torturing people, you're living in a crazy world.
All right, there's one take on it, ladies and gentlemen. Joining us now, Ari Fleischer, former White House spokesman for President George W. Bush and president of Ari Fleischer Sports Communications. Hello, sir.
Great to be with you, Steve.
Well, it's always great to talk to you. I've always told you from the first time I met you that, you know, I consider you a part of history, and you know, with 9/11 but when you heard Dianne Feinstein on the floor of the Senate yesterday reading this, I mean, for the whole world to hear and see what many consider an inaccurate, flawed, predetermined report, no witnesses interviewed, I mean, what were you thinking?
I was thinking her methodology is wrong and her conclusions are wrong. And I think what's really inspired this report is the fact that she and others on Capitol Hill were indeed briefed about this at the time. They approved it. They, in many cases, urged us to do more of it. And now, as the worst kind of Monday morning quarterbacking, after it's over and after George Bush is unpopular and things that happen over there are unpopular, they totally flip sides, jump, and then blame us for the things that they previously approved.
So I mean, she obviously, and it was one of the people who was briefed on all this as time went on, correct?
Well, I'm not clear on that. It was the Gang of Eight initially briefed, and that means the top leadership of the Congress. Whether she was in that group or not, I don't know.
Okay, but we could assume that
congressional leaders were, and the chairs of the intelligence committees were. Whether she was one of those chairs in 2002 or not, but generally speaking, all members had the overall approach to how we were going to treat detainees, not specifics, but the overall approach. They knew it.
All right.
The leadership knew everything.
This report says that George W. Bush didn't find out about any of this until 2006. Do you believe that's accurate?
Well, it depends on what this refers to. I think the president clearly, and he wrote this in his book,
right.
He knew what techniques were going to be used, and he was uncomfortable with two of them and told them not to use those two, even though they would have been considered lawful. And then he said, here are the ones that I do approve. What I don't know that he would have been briefed on were the specific details of each and every interrogation of each and every subject. So they wouldn't come in and say, last night at 10 p.m. we did this, and it lasted for 6 minutes, and at 10:06 we did that. You know, that's the equivalent of presidents picking bomb targets or being briefed on bomb targets so that they can fine-tune it and micromanage a process. Presidents give broad direction to both the Pentagon and the CIA. In this case, the approval of these techniques to keep us safe and to get information to keep us from being attacked again. At that point, once it's legal, authorized by the Justice Department as well, approved by the president, it's up to the CIA to carry it out.
Right.
They did.
So the report makes it sound, look at it either way or both ways, that he was A, out of touch because he's George W. Bush, or B, or A and B, that the CIA purposely withheld information from him because they were doing these nefarious things. So you don't buy either of those two scenarios.
I certainly don't, because I think it's a misunderstanding how information flows and at what level it should flow. That's like saying President Obama is being kept in the dark because he is not told about each and every drone strike and pre-approving each and every drone strike and pre-approving who's in the room when a drone hits. The president authorizes the program, and then agencies of the government carry it out. You don't want presidents to micromanage this process, either for the military, the CIA, or in any government agency.
Right. So he authorized the program, and he told them what not to do, and then he just naturally, was under the assumption that it was being done.
And the president was briefed about the results of the programs and what information the CIA was getting, not only from these programs, but from other programs. And to this day, I believe the CIA, when the CIA directors under Bill Clinton, George Bush, and Barack Obama, 3 different administrations, 2 Democrat, 1 Republican, all say the programs were effective and did save lives.
Yeah. And, I watched that George Tenet interview from 2006 where he was on with Scott Pelley on 60 Minutes. And, you have to go back to the intentions here. I mean, who would have objected? And you know what? Let me ask you. I mean, I'm waiting for Barack Obama or Dianne Feinstein, let's say, to say, look, I have grandchildren in school in California. We know that there's an attack being planned against a California school or two of them within the next month. We don't know which school or when, and we have a guy who might be able to tell us, but I don't want you to make him lack his sleep. I don't want you to stick his head underwater. I don't want you to do anything to him that I would consider enhanced interrogation. You believe she would say that?
Well, we know for a fact that in 2001 and 2002, when congressional leaders were briefed about the techniques, they did not object.
Yep, to keep us safe. All right, stay where you are. We're coming back with Ari Fleischer. We have a lot more to talk about. This agreement on the budget, the CR, and also, is John Lester really worth, well, I don't know, almost 200, whatever the heck he's getting, $30 million a year? The guy was making $4 million last year, I heard. We'll talk all about that and more, because always have to throw some sports in with Ari, on the Steve Malzberg Show. Don't you go away. All right, folks, we're back with Ari Fleischer here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Ari, let me ask you one more, and before we move on from this report issue. The talk, at least in the media all day today, is should there be prosecutions? Will there be prosecutions? Maybe the president, when he leaves, should pardon everyone involved so as to make a statement that, yes, wrongs were done, crimes were committed, but he doesn't think they should be prosecuted. Do you fear, because now I hear the White House saying, well, it's up to the Justice Department, and they haven't expressed any desire to do it. I'm not hearing, no, the president says no. I'm hearing, well, it's up to Eric Holder, which always makes me nervous. What do you think might happen?
Yeah. This is extraordinarily foolish and dangerous talk. Here's the real problem. It's Europe. And if Europe decides, because of this report, that they should prosecute Bush administration officials, or when you go abroad, they're going to arrest you, think ahead. What's going to happen if Europe decides that they want to do the same thing to Obama administration officials, who, after all, are killing suspects, including innocents, with drone strikes?
Yeah.
This is foolish, dangerous talk. It is no way for a nation engaged in a war against terrorists who to this day are trying to behead us and kill us and strike again, for a nation to act.
Yep. Well, would you hope Obama would put an end to this talk and just say there will be no prosecution?
Yeah, I would think he should. I mean, he was the one who came out and said there wasn't a whiff of scandal in other things. He needs to come out and say something now too, which he originally did. Remember in 2009 when the president came in under a lot of pressure from his liberal base to prosecute, and he recognized the dangers in going down that road for the good of the republic, and he moved beyond that. That's what he needs to do now. But all of this is opening up a can of worms in Europe, and that can of worms is going to come back to bite President Obama and his people, who, because of those drone strikes, are still keeping us safe. Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's talk about the deal here. The Republicans agreeing. A lot of people on the right are saying they sold out. Boehner and McConnell did. And then I hear that don't worry, come February, Boehner then he'll take a stand. I don't know how you fund something and then in February say, well, now I'm going to cut it off. Do you think that they're missing the point of the election results? Well, the cavalry's coming over the hill, and you don't launch the charge before the cavalry gets there. I can't imagine anything more foolish than trying to fall on your sword now when you don't even have a majority. Now, we have a majority coming, and we're going to have a lot more leverage and to use surgical techniques to carve out anything that would fund the Obama immigration order and stop it from being implemented. But you don't do it when you don't have leverage, when you don't have the votes, and when it's going to backfire. Yeah, no, okay. That's certainly one line of thought. Let me ask about Gruber yesterday. His apology, which was by many accounts, canned and rehearsed and insincere. And do you think anything was accomplished yet by yesterday's hearings before the House Oversight Committee? Well, I do, in the sense that this is a real substantive reminder about the flaws in Obamacare by design that were built into Obamacare, and particularly in the upcoming Supreme Court case about the individual states and their rights to enact Obamacare. This could be very threatening to the underpinnings of Obamacare. Yeah, well, we could only hope. Plus, we have the court decision, of course, coming in the not too distant future. All right, let me ask you. Let's turn to sports. As president of Ari Fleischer Sports Communications, are you surprised? I mean, we were talking off the air that we both kind of thought that these huge contracts given to especially baseball players, where the money's all guaranteed, might have ended with the A-Rod experience. But it seems like they're picking up again. And yesterday's John Lester signing by the Cubs, just another example. Well, first of all, anything that can get the Cubs into a World Series is just exciting. I mean, things that only happen once every 100 years, you've got to be for. But With Lester, he's going to be 31 next month, and he had a lights-out year in 2014. But history shows that when you start giving this kind of money to people who are going to be in their middle to late 30s, it doesn't always
it's
turn
risky,
out well.
risky business. There was a movie by that name. One more, Ray Rice. Does anybody pick him up next year?
I can't see it. I think the only way you pick up at Ray Rice is you sign him, and then you announce he's not going to play for 6 months. He won't play for 1 year until he proves that he's remorseful, that he proves through deeds that he's going to do the right thing. You have to ease it back in. I think anybody who tries to just suddenly put him back in, it's going to be tough.
And at that age, or his age, that's really not even a feasible scenario.
I think that's right. And, face it, we live in a modern era where if you do something like this, you become a target for so much unnecessary negative publicity because people ardently can't stand the man and what he did.
Absolutely. Hey, Ari.
You want to be the franchise that invites that.
Right, yeah, very interesting. Always great to talk to you. Happy Hanukkah and all that stuff.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Great to be with you.
We'll see you soon. Take care. Ari Fleischer, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back with author Philip F. Nelson after the break.